Thunder rumbled across the twilight sky as Robert Wells turned his old, dented sedan into the gravel driveway of his tiny cottage. At 39, life had become a steady rhythm of work, worry, and quiet moments. By day, he manned the counter at the local auto parts shop. By evening, he fixed neighbors' lawn mowers and broken engines in his garage, all for one reason: his 10-year-old daughter, Lily. It had been 4 long years since cancer took his wife, Amanda. 4 years of bedtime stories told through tired smiles, school projects built with shaky hands, and countless moments where he wished she could see their little girl growing up. The hospital bills had stripped away most of what they owned, but through that loss, Robert had learned something priceless: that happiness didn't come from having more, but from loving deeply what you still had. As he climbed the porch steps that evening, the first drops of rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavy, drumming against the tin roof. That's when he noticed her. A lone figure crouched beneath the big oak tree, half hidden by the darkness. A young woman, mid-20s maybe, was pressed against the trunk, trying to shield herself from the downpour with nothing but a soaked denim jacket. "Miss," Robert called out, his voice gentle but firm over the storm. "Are you all right out there?" She looked up sharply, startled, her dark blonde hair clinging to her pale face. Even from the porch light, he could see her trembling. "I'm sorry," she shouted back, her voice breaking through the rain. "I didn't mean to trespass. My phone died, and I was just looking for somewhere dry till it passes." Without thinking, Robert stepped down from the porch, his boots splashing in the puddles. "You can't stay out here in this weather," he said, waving her over. "Come on inside. It's warm." The young woman hesitated, clutching her jacket tighter, her eyes full of uncertainty. "I don't want to impose on your family," she whispered, finishing her sentence. "It's just me and my daughter," Robert replied with a small, reassuring smile, though the rain was now soaking through his shirt. "And trust me, she'd never forgive me if I left someone out here in this storm." The young woman hesitated for only a second longer before following him toward the porch. As they reached the front door, it swung open. Lily stood there, 10 years old, red pigtail slightly messy, her small terrier Max barking like a hero at her feet. "Dad, what's going on?" she asked, her brown eyes full of curiosity and worry. "This lady got caught in the rain," Robert said, ushering the stranger inside. "She just needs a place to dry off." "I'm Jessica," the woman murmured, her arms wrapped around herself as she shivered. "Jessica Morgan, I'm really sorry for the trouble." But Lily's face brightened instantly, glowing with the kind of empathy only children possess. "You're freezing! Dad, she needs hot chocolate, and maybe Mom's fuzzy slippers." Robert froze for half a second at the mention of Amanda. Even now, her name felt like both a wound and a warmth. But he smiled softly. "Lily's right," he said. "Let's get you something dry, and we'll warm you up." He disappeared into the bedroom and returned with a soft gray sweater and a pair of cozy pants that had once belonged to Amanda. They'd been hanging untouched in the closet for years, a quiet memory he'd never had the heart to move. While Jessica changed in the bathroom, Robert stirred the pot of vegetable stew simmering in the kitchen, the comforting scent filling the small cottage. Lily, meanwhile, piled cushions on the couch and whispered, "Dad, is she running away from something bad?" Robert paused, glancing toward the closed bathroom door. "Sometimes," he said softly, "people just need a place to think. Our job is just to be kind while they do." When Jessica finally stepped out, Amanda's sweater draped perfectly over her. The sight made something twist in Robert's chest, grief mixing with empathy. Lily hurried forward, holding a steaming mug of cocoa topped high with marshmallows. "This is my special recipe," she said proudly. "Extra marshmallows." Dad says they help heal sad hearts. Jessica blinked fast, her voice trembling. Thank you, Lily. You have no idea how much that means. As they sat down to dinner, the storm raged outside. But inside, it was warm. Bit by bit, Jessica began to talk. She spoke of a life built on pressure and impossible expectations, of people she'd let down and dreams that had slipped away. Her voice cracked as she said, I just didn't know where else to go. Robert ladled another bowl of stew, his eyes kind but thoughtful. You know, he said quietly, handing it to her. Robert ladled another spoonful of stew into her bowl, the steam curling up between them. I used to think success meant having all the answers, he said quietly. But life taught me something different. Sometimes the most important thing isn't having the answers, it's having the courage to ask the right questions. Jessica tilted her head, curiosity softening her features. What kind of questions? Before Robert could reply, Lily spoke up with childlike certainty. Like, how can I help? Or what do people really need? She grinned proudly. Dad says those are the best questions anyone can ask. Jessica's eyes shimmered. You're both very wise, she said, her voice trembling with a faint smile. Robert chuckled softly. We learned it the hard way, he said. When my wife was sick, we discovered that the people who matter most aren't the ones who have it all figured out. They're the ones who show up anyway, even when it's hard. After dinner, Jessica insisted on helping Lily with her reading homework. Robert stayed behind in the kitchen, quietly washing dishes while watching the two of them from a distance. The sight almost felt unreal. This stranger who had appeared out of nowhere, now sitting cross-legged on the rug beside his daughter, cheering her on as she stumbled through long words. For a moment, Robert caught himself smiling. The laughter drifting from the living room filled spaces that had been quiet for too long. Later that night, after Lily had gone to bed and Max had curled up by the fireplace, Robert and Jessica sat at the small kitchen table, a single lamp glowing between them. The storm outside had faded to a soft drizzle. I need to tell you something, Jessica said, her voice almost a whisper. My father is William Morgan. Morgan Financial Group. Robert froze for a moment. He knew that name. Everyone in town did. Morgan Financial handled half the businesses in the region, owned banks, and practically ran the county's economy. Jessica looked down at her hands. I wanted to prove I could make it without his money, without his name. I thought I could show everyone that I was more than just his daughter. But I failed. I let people down, made choices out of pride instead of sense. Robert nodded slowly, his voice low and calm. Pride can be a lonely companion. Jessica swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. The worst part is, I pushed away everyone who tried to care about me. I've been running for so long, I forgot how to let anyone in. But you and Lily, her voice cracked, you reminded me what real kindness feels like. Robert's gaze softened. Kindness, he said gently, isn't about what we can afford to give. It's about understanding that deep down we all need the same things, acceptance, forgiveness, and a place to belong, Robert finished softly. The next morning arrived like a blessing. Clear skies, sunlight spilling across the wet grass, and the smell of rain still hanging in the air. Robert was already outside talking to his friend Danny, the local tow truck driver, arranging help for Jessica's broken-down car. While they waited, Lily invited Jessica into her room. On the windowsill sat a glass jar filled with smooth, colorful stones. I paint one every time something good happens, Lily said proudly. Like when Dad gets a day off, or when Max learns a new trick, or when we help someone who needs it. She picked out a small rock painted with a bright yellow sun and placed it gently into Jessica's hand. This one's for you, Lily said, beaming. Because you brought sunshine to our rainy day. Jessica blinked back tears. clutching the stone as if it were made of gold. Moments later, Danny's tow truck rumbled up the driveway, but right behind it came a sleek silver car. A tall, distinguished man stepped out, his expression a mix of worry and relief. "Dad?" Jessica whispered. "Jessica!" he breathed, his voice breaking. William Morgan, the man whose name carried power across the county, looked nothing like the cold businessman from the newspapers. In that moment, he was just a father who'd found his daughter again. The reunion was raw and emotional. Jessica explained everything, how she'd been lost, how pride had pushed her away, and how a stranger and his little girl had shown her the kind of generosity money could never buy. Before leaving, William asked to speak with Robert privately. He extended his hand, gratitude etched into his face. "My daughter tells me you've worked hard to give your family a good life," he said. Robert smiled modestly. "We do all right." William handed him an envelope. "She told me you refused payment," he said. "But please, as one father to another, let me do this for Lily. Sometimes the greatest kindness we can offer is letting someone else give back." Robert hesitated, but something in the man's tone made him accept it quietly. That evening, after they were gone, Robert opened the envelope. Inside was enough money to secure Lily's education and the peace of mind he'd been chasing for years. But even as tears filled his eyes, he realized the true gift wasn't in the money at all. It was the connection born from that stormy night. Jessica visited often after that, bringing books for Lily, laughter to the house, and updates on how she'd started using her